This episode of the Local Insider Podcast is brought to you in part by My Patriot Supply. There are two things you can count on when you buy from My Patriot Supply: getting high-quality food for the best value and the peace of mind that comes with knowing that you're prepared. The emergency food you'll depend on is made from the freshest ingredients. Meals are freeze-dried and sealed airtight with oxygen absorbers and closed in resealable heavy-duty 4-layer zipper packs for long-term storage that lasts up to 25 years. And they're all made in the USA. By ordering today, you'll have the peace of mind that only comes with the ability to feed yourself and those you love in any crisis situation. We think you'll agree you cannot put a price tag on the personal freedom that comes with being prepared. Visit localinsidershow.com/emergency food and pick up your 2-week or 4-week emergency food supply. Again, that's localinsidershow.com/emergency food. Hello and welcome everyone in Logan County and the surrounding areas to this 10th episode of the Local Insider Podcast. In local news, this Saturday, March the 6th, the South Logan County Splash Pad Committee is hosting a color run at 7:45 a.m. at the Marcel Phillips Park. Proceeds from the event will help fund the construction of a new splash pad to be built in the Booneville Veterans Park. Color Run organizer and committee member Leslie Oliver said, "The race is not timed, it's just for fun. And for those who say they can't run, don't worry," Leslie says, "you can walk." Glendale Baptist Church is having a wild chili supper, Saturday, March 27th at 4 p.m. Unable to have their annual wild game banquet this year, they have instead chosen to have a wild chili supper. Adults 16 and older, admission is $5. Tickets for 15 and under are free. Act fast though, only 250 tickets will be available. Magazine True Value Hardware and Farm has both full-time and part-time positions available. For more information and to apply, visit their store on the corner of 109 and Highway 10 in Magazine, or you can apply on their Facebook page. Just search for on Facebook at Magazine Hardware and Farm. Scott County True Value Hardware and Farm in Waldron has 3 full-time and 1 part-time position available. For more info and to apply, visit their store on the corner of West 2nd and Highway 71 in Waldron, or you can search for them on Facebook at Scott County True Value. In Arkansas news, Arkansas' Stand Your Ground bill was signed into law Wednesday, March 3rd by Governor Asa Hutchinson. The bill allows an armed person to use deadly force if they believe they are in imminent danger. Arkansas law did prohibit a person from using deadly force if they could safely retreat. The Arkansas House passed SB 6, also known as the Arkansas Unborn Protection Act, on Wednesday, March the 3rd. The bill would abolish abortions in Arkansas unless it's to save the life of the mother. The bill, which had 47 co-sponsors in the legislature, was approved 76-19 in the House and 27-7 last month in the Senate. Governor Asa Hutchinson has indicated he will sign it. In national news, following the lead of pro-liberty-minded leaders like Governors Ron DeSantis of Florida and Kristi Noem of South Dakota, both the governors of Mississippi and Texas decided Tuesday to announce an end to business restrictions and statewide mask mandates. In a tweet by Texas Governor Greg Abbott, he stated, "I just announced Texas is open 100%. Everything. I also ended the statewide mask mandate." Mississippi governor followed suit minutes later with a similar tweet lifting all state-imposed rules concerning COVID-19. And space weather news, courtesy of spaceweathernews.com. The last 24 hours on the sun were calm with few sunspots developing in the south. The sunspot penumbral magnetism is split and not developing in size or umbral number. Today, solar storm conditions continue as solar wind remains elevated in intensity. More enhanced streams are on the way from the equatorial coronal hole, and the sunspots are developing quickly. Increased alert for space weather begins today. My next guest is from Magazine, Arkansas. While most of us were learning our ABCs in kindergarten and in the first grade, he was learning to build programs on computers. He later became the go-to IT tech at Magazine School while being a student. He has held many positions in the technology field, including communications technician and supervisor of regional operations with CenturyLink. He is also a former software developer at Stonecrop Technologies. Currently, he is the COO at Liberty Informatics in Booneville, where they design and implement custom server and mobile app software and offer strategic technology consulting for businesses. Please welcome electronic designer and mentor with Team 5437, the Rocky Balboabots, Dustin Garrett.
Welcome to the Local Insider Podcast, the show about everyday people who make a big difference.
Really, what I would like to do is just kind of show the youth, show the people coming up that you don't have to have an Ivy League degree. You don't have to have the debt tied to you for 20 years from university, and you're proof of that.
Right. College is not for everyone, and I felt this way for a long time, that I was a bit of a failure because I didn't finish college. And if I'd have had someone to tell me at a younger age that that's not the case,
mm-hmm.
You can do whatever you want in this world, that would have helped me. I wouldn't have stayed stagnant so long in my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
As far as my development of my character, my development of my career, I certainly don't want to discourage anybody from going to college, because it helps a lot of people. It's important, but I can't sit still long enough, and there's others like me.
Well, it's like you and I were talking about the other day. It must be ROI positive, which means that what you're purchasing must pay for itself, and hopefully, the end result is that you gain a significant quality of life from it.
Right, and don't just do it because you're expected to, because that's what you've been told to do. I try to tell my kids and the robotics kids all the time, it's okay to march in line, but at the same time, look for yourselves. Try to see the reason you're doing something. Don't believe something just because somebody told you. It doesn't.
Right.
You don't have to be a crazy conspiracy theorist your whole life, but at the same time, it certainly doesn't hurt to do your own investigating about things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Have an understanding.
One thing I noticed early on was the kind of the herd mentality that society has. And I think with the invention of social media, that it's only magnified it. So, and we're social creatures by nature. Females especially. I'm not going to be sexist here, but it is, you can read the literature. When boys are developing motor skills, physical fitness, and things of that nature, females are developing emotional skills,
communication
skills. Yeah. So they're social creatures by nature, and so I think that social media has a significantly disproportional effect upon the female population. And I don't know the numbers on it, but I would say that probably I know in any social media business account that I manage, the female following it's like 3-to-1 females to males.
I try to stay off Facebook because it is more addicting than crack. I will open up Facebook to look for something, and before I get through the first post, I'm a zombie. Just scrolling through, and 5 minutes in, I'm like, "Whoa, what just happened? Why am I doing this?"
To me, it's more like 30 minutes in, and you snap out of it. You're like, "What? And where did 30 minutes go?"
I'll never get that time back.
And it's designed to do that.
Absolutely.
All the engineers that initially helped develop it have came out and said that they wish that they would not have, because it's specifically designed to increase serotonin, dopamine, hit those spikes. It's like a drug,
Yep.
And, I don't want to get off the beaten path here, but there's been studies to show that some social media companies can change the algorithm on a regional demographic and increase the crime rate. So
sure,
they have lots of power.
Oh, more than people know.
Yeah. How did you get started in the technical field?
I was 5. My dad went to work for the Forest Service when I was 4. Maybe that's not right. Maybe I was 6. He worked out in the forest for a couple of years, and then he transferred into the computer science department. But even before then, we had a Texas Instruments computer, and we had a little a basic programming manual, and I would write a little code, copied a little code out of a book, and make a little robot hold his hand up. So I had an advantage that our kids have now, but I see it's not even, they don't even see it as an advantage. It's just they're normal.
Mm-hmm.
But I grew up with computers like they do. So when you grow up with something as a kid, you learn it faster. It's just like your right hand.
Right.
So it's easy. And in school I think we had one computer and maybe 2 computers in the elementary school. It was a Mac, and I think it was a Mac, and we played Oregon Trail on it. And
that was a great game, by the way.
Yeah, it was. So I would be the one to have to go load the disk in and start the program for the other kids in the class because I knew how to do it.
Was it like the 5-inch floppy?
Yeah, 5.5-inch floppies, absolutely. Anyway, once I got into junior high, they started getting more computers. We had one in the library, and I remember I had a computer at home, and we had dial-up. But this was before dial-up, where the only thing you could do was call AOL, and then the prices went up. You had to pay for toll. And I found a number to some bulletin board services in Fort Smith, and I dialed the number and dialed in, and it was a BBS, and they had places you could download programs. And back then there was no internet, so you couldn't just go download programs. So I spent a weekend on the Fort Smith BBS and ran up a nice phone bill. I kind of got in trouble for. I remember one year for Christmas, I wanted I think it was a Tandy computer. We had an external 20 meg hard drive for it. It was fast too. And what I wanted for Christmas was a CD-ROM drive, because at Sam's they had CD-ROMs that you could buy that had hundreds of games on them because the capacity was just enormous for back then.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I grew up with them, and in junior high, they put a T1 at the school, and I spent a lot of time in the library computer with floppy disks downloading stuff so I could take it home. But I became the school tech support guy because nobody knew anything about computers. There was still not many in the school, so. Anytime something would break, they would get me out of class, and I would go and fix it for them, and it just kind of became my identity.
It's just kind of always been part of who you are. You naturally gravitated toward your interest.
I was the only kid in the magazine that had a computer that I'm aware of, so kids usually pick up on things better. So I've always been pretty motivated. I don't like sitting still, wasting time, even as a kid. So. I would learn. I have a weird fascination and enjoyment of creating labels. I would build labels. I actually, I don't know if you want to share this, but I used to sell report cards. I had a dot matrix printer, and I took my report card and built a template in ProWrite. I think I got like $40 a piece for them.
So you're a natural entrepreneur.
Yeah, and then when I was in middle school or junior high school, I can't remember. It was right around the 9th, 10th grade. the school got these carbon copied, pre-printed report cards that had, they came from a print shop. I'm like, I can't make that. I can't do that with a dot matrix printer. So one day I was in the office and nobody was around, and I grabbed a handful of them and I was back in business. I just built me a new template for that, and which of course, if any of the parents would have done any digging whatsoever, they would have known that those grades were totally fake.
Well, they didn't have it. They wouldn't even imagine that would be possible.
Right.
Which is kind of what we see now with hackers, what they can do. What we know that they can do is probably, I would say, and I'm a moron, but I know it's probably about 80% of what they can actually really do as far as intrusion into.
They can do a lot. Your anonymity is in the numbers. So
right.
The fact that nobody here has ever really been hacked is just because there's so many people in the world.
Right.
Because people share their passwords with me from time to time so that I can help them with whatever problem they're having. And they don't have good passwords, and they would not be hard. Once upon a time, there was a situation at the sheriff's office where an employee had left, and there was a password on their accounting file. And they said, "Do you think you could break into the accounting file?" And I said, "I could certainly try. I'd need a copy of it." And one of the methods for breaking passwords is a brute force attack, where
right.
you just slam it with as many attempts as the computer can handle, based off of its hardware and speed. And it uses this thing called the rainbow tables, which is a huge list of all 8-digit passwords, basically, and it just rolls through them and hits it. It took about 45 seconds to hack into the file and give them their password and their file back, So I'm not a hacker. I mean, I just looked it up on the web how to do it. So the guys that really know what they're doing, if they wanted to. I mean, if a hacker made it his goal to hack into your life, he could certainly do it.
Right.
Most likely.
Yeah, I think it's like you said, we're kind of small fish to them.
So I suggest 20-digit random passwords on every account you have.
Yeah.
My business partner, Crockett, has convinced me that is the best way to do it. So that's the way I do it now.
So do you have a password manager that you use, or do you have
yes.
a little notebook, or
I use a password manager.
Who do you trust for it as a password manager?
I use 1Password 7.
1Password 7.
Yeah, it's pretty popular on Macs. So that's the one I use. It syncs up with Dropbox, so you have it you have it on your mobile device, and you can have it on multiple computers.
My wife would use the same password for everything she had. She used the Podesta, the infamous DNC Podesta password. It was the password.
Yeah.
At Liberty Informatics, what do you do? What is your goal here with this company?
At Liberty Informatics, our mission is to provide superior technology solutions to small and medium businesses in the southeast region of the U.S. while building great communities and great families through a business that is founded on and operates on Christian principles and practices. We aim to source revenue by drastically increasing our customers' revenue. We aim to build an exceptional workforce by recruiting a small senior core team that will grow local talent into world-class technicians starting at the high school level. We aim to recruit and retain this talent by being generous with profit sharing to reward and give ownership to the work that the employee contributes to the success of this organization. We are a family-oriented company, so we operate with the principle that work is just an extension of your family.
That sums it up.
So I see a huge gap in the knowledge of any kind of technology in general with small businesses. Right now we're working with restaurants, so their main, in general, these are all generalizations, but in general, their focus in life is how to make food better, how to better serve their customers, not how are we going to get credit cards processed, how are we going to get a website up that our customers can order our food and the ticket print out in the kitchen and we know that it's been paid for. How do we get a mobile app into their hands? That's not, I mean, they think about that, but that's such an overwhelming task. even if you came up to me and asked me personally, not as a company, but just me personally, it's such an overwhelming task, an undertaking to start from scratch with something like that. So we are developing a centralized marketplace platform that we can use to not have to start from scratch, of course, with every business that needs something like this. And at the same time, I've always worked in a customer support role in one way or another, where I have to speak to the customer. So I feel I have a good understanding of what they expect and how to best accommodate them. Mm-hmm. And most of them, unless they're interested in technology, they just want it to work.
Right.
So when you apply that to the thousands and tens of thousands of small businesses across the U.S. that could benefit from having a mobile ordering platform or a CRM where they just have their products online and people can purchase them and they could ship it to them.
Where we are, especially here, well, not so much with Texas because Silicon Valley's moving to Texas.
Absolutely.
But with like specifically Arkansas, Oklahoma, and the more rural smaller towns, even Fort Smith I would say be considered to be a small town. But if you don't adapt, then you're not going to make it in this economy that's
right.
That's coming on.
And the use of cash is becoming less and less. If you were to try to spin up a type of credit card processing website on your own, well, for one, you can't. You have to go through, payment gateway providers and payment processors. But setting all that up is a nightmare. So then you're at the mercy of someone who will do it for you for a fee, and then that starts cutting into profits so much that you either have to drive your prices up. So all that being said, we very much love our community. Mm-hmm. We want to offer a service, just like I said when I read the mission statement, we want to make you more money, so that we also can be part of an ecosystem that everybody is paying taxes and right. earning a living. So,
will your service save them money on their processing fees, or is it a process provider for like a credit card processing?
I can't say this enough. We are truly blessed with our relationships with our friends that also have businesses here. The community that we live in is, I see a huge movement. I shouldn't call it huge. I see a lot of talk and a movement about wanting to help the community, wanting to build this community into something better. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, no, at first, we can't process the volume of payments that those guys process. But where those guys are, this is still early stage, but where those guys see, they take advantage of that, and as opposed to reflecting that to their patrons, they consume that and they keep that profit. Mm-hmm. And that's a good business model. But for me, I'm loyal. I just, if someone is going to, like Steve Reed, if Reed's Barbecue is going to step out on a limb with a new company and work with us, which allows us to have cash flow to do something like this, that's more than just a money transaction.
Right.
That's more than just doing business with somebody. I want to return the favor. So with that being said, as we grow this, as we move new businesses onto our platform, no, at first we won't be able to. We might be able to match it, mm-hmm. and by doing that, that's good. We keep the business local, but as we move on out, there's only so much business in Booneville that it can't support what we want to do. We want to hire any kid we can that has an aptitude for programming. Mm-hmm. That's why we give classes down here. We're training our future workforce. So we are.
Just to let people know, you give free coding classes. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Every week. So we will have to move outside of our community, and which is another point I want to talk about. So, but this first core group of people that invested in us with their business, moving their business to us, as we are able to, get these rates down because of the volume of transactions. I mean, I want to reflect that back to them because thank you. That's
right.
So humbling to someone whose livelihood they're kind of putting in your hands and trusting you to not screw it up.
Right. And wouldn't the security be better with you versus Square or one of the other payment processing companies in that, that it's not going through 10,000 servers to...
It still has to go through the same processes that they use. And there's a regulated set of standards that anybody that does that has to follow. Mm-hmm. So I don't know that security would be better because it's good,
mm-hmm. Right.
And there's a structure behind the way you build these apps, and there's a structure to the way you handle people's information. And certainly if you have to store their information, there's very rigid structure about making sure that it's segregated and not in one place where
right.
you find a pot of gold and
end-to-end encryption. And
you do not store a person's address, zip code, and credit card number in plain text ever. And you don't store it in the same place. You break it apart so that you have to run... You keep hashes of it, mm-hmm. and then you have hashes of different of the different components it takes to process a payment. Never the CVV code. Never ever do you store that. That way, you always reliant on that person to have that in their hand and give that to you, so that there's security steps. It's like 2-factor authentication.
Right. And for people that do not know, 2-factor authentication is. Let's say you wanted to sign into your email. Okay, you put your password in there, but you also you'll get a notification on your mobile phone, and it will give you a code that you have to put into the website as well. It's a different code every time it generates upon the entry of your password. So and there are apps out there, authentication apps. Google has one, Apple mm-hmm. has one. And
RSA keys, there's hard tokens that you
right.
carry around in your pocket that run on a timer that generate off of an algorithm that's matched with the server.
Right.
It's pretty neat stuff. Pretty tough to, without the original algorithm, it's pretty tough to hack too.
Right. So why did you stay here instead of, I know you had the opportunity, you could have moved to Florida with CenturyLink, or you could have moved off in definitely bigger markets.
I could have pursued a career with CenturyLink. I would imagine that at some point Florida would certainly be they have a big presence there. So that would be something I could have done. But I like living here. I like raising my kids here. As I travel, there's many places I've been that I wouldn't be comfortable letting my kids out of my arm's length, mm-hmm. much less walk to the store. And I feel that here I could let my kid walk to the store, and I would worry about them because I worry, but mm-hmm. I wouldn't. Most of my worry would be unreasonable. It would just be a helicopter parent worry, Mm-hmm. This place is special. There's a morality, values here that even in other small places I've been, I don't always see. It's just a special place, and all my family's here, and I really have no desire to live anywhere else.
We talked about how the workforce that you have to pull from is different. Even, if you travel 20 miles to the east or to the west, that there is a difference in the principles that are held by even the youth.
Absolutely.
The youth now, they really get and a lot of times deserve to get a bad rap, but from what I'm hearing, it's not as bad here.
Kids will be kids. Mm-hmm. Kids here get in trouble. But I mean, I even see, every generation that passes. I know my older brother, his friends and him, those boys were rough. I mean, they were into stuff, and it's lucky they never got caught. They might all be in prison. And the things that we did as teenagers was just crazy compared to what the kids do now. Unfortunately, I feel like that most of them are zombies to that phone that's in their hand most of the time. So they don't get out and explore as much as I feel like they should. But that's the way the whole world is. It's nothing I can do about it. So we'll see what happens. But it's they're just mellowing out.
Yeah.
Every generation's a little mellower, it seems like.
What does the robotics side of your company? You
also asked why we decided here. We saw an opportunity through robotics, working with youth. I'm a mentor on the robotics team. My business partner, Crockett, is also a mentor on the robotics team. We have experienced unusual success as a robotics team, and we like working with youth. You get comfortable in your life. You get the normal things you do, and you get bored, The excitement in life, just, you just get in your routine, you get in your rut. And when I started seeing I'm a kid. I mean, I relate with teenagers better than I do with adults. And as a result, they trust me. I genuinely enjoy talking to them. Mm-hmm. I get to be there. They share things with me they won't share with their parents, and I get to be wise counsel for them.
Right.
Trying to help them make decisions that aren't going to follow them the rest of their life or impact them the rest of their life. And I was doing that and the first couple of years on the team, and I never realized it. I was just having fun, And it just kind of hit me one day. It's like, wow, I like working with kids, and even though I'm just going down here having fun, I'm able to help them, over some obstacles, because not all kids have parents that want to talk to them about things that are uncomfortable. Not all kids have parents present in their life. Mm-hmm. And there seems to be a lot of that here. And not to mention, we've had kids on the team that have never really left Booneville, and we've gotten to take them to Tulsa, to Little Rock, to Houston. The World Championship at Houston, there's 70,000 people there usually. It's at the GRB, and it's a huge facility. The finals are played out on Minute Maid Stadium, out on the ball field. Mm-hmm. Just for them to get to be a part of that and have never really left Booneville, to experience the excitement and to experience that with them, it's almost like you're doing it. You're experiencing it for the first time, and that's awesome. But it also lets them see there's a big world out there. And, I want my kids to live here when they grow up. Mm-hmm. But if they choose to follow a career path or live somewhere else, that's their choice, and it's their life to make that choice. So I would hate to see a kid whose potential is limitless get stuck in a place they don't want to be, doing a job they don't want to do because that's all they know. That's what their parents did. That's what everybody does after school. There's a huge world out there, and when you're a teenager, you just don't realize it's at your fingertips, Mm-hmm. Most of those places that robotics, the judges, the VIPs that walk around, they're usually decision makers with big companies, tech companies usually, Texas Instruments, SpaceX, Google, Apple. They're all there, and they're there because these are the smartest kids in the world, and they're competing and they're comfortable. It's sometimes odd to see these kids completely free of fear of judgment, because especially when they did Steamworks, it was steampunk, and there was a lot of cosplay. And most things don't make me uncomfortable, but I'm going to say 4 days at a championship, which I shower every day, but those kids don't. The kids that stay with me do, but Some of the kids on the other teams. 4 days. There's 6,500 kids in the pits. Pretty close quarters. Horrible hygiene. Steampunk, they were dressed up in these jackets and suits and hats and
top hats.
Oh yeah, big thick wool jackets because that was the era, which I think steampunk's 20s somewhere.
It's kind of a mix between future. It's like Mad Max. It's a mix between futuristic and retro. It's like future technology with retro fashion. It's a weird.
It makes me uncomfortable, and I don't know why. When there's this thing at robotics we call pit funk, and it's usually day 3. You notice it. Day 4, it's bad, and it's just poor hygiene because kids don't have good hygiene a lot of time. And when you wrap them up in a hot wool coat and let them sweat and soak in it, oh man, it was a bad year. Woo!
What time of year is this? Summer?
Yeah, it's second week of April in Houston. So,
wow,
certainly not cool.
So, what are the age group of these kids?
13 to once they could be older than 18, but they have to be in high school.
Mm-hmm.
They can't join. We are a part of the FIRST organization, and FIRST will not let a kid on an FRC team unless they're 13, and probably for good reason. We have lots of tools that we use to build the robots that are dangerous, and a kid needs to be old enough to understand responsibility to not stick your hand in a drill press or a lathe.
Mm-hmm.
So we were talking about we have had. I'm probably going to miss one, but I know we've had 2 instances where we have had a student that went to Houston and was approached at the end of the competition because the judges they're incognito. They can't reveal themselves, like who they are in the real world. And I mean, you can ask them, but they're not going to talk to you about it because they're judging. And afterwards, they're judging. They're volunteering their time because they're scouting talent. That's kind of what FIRST has done. They've put the talent and the people seeking the talent in a competitive environment. So you get everybody at their best. Well, this was the year before I started, but Lexi Danicus, Debbie Danicus's daughter, Scott and Debbie Danicus's daughter, she's an unusually gifted speaker, and wiring. She also does the wiring on the robot, or did the wiring on the robot. But a very unique girl, very charismatic, very. She's an influencer.
Mm-hmm.
And she can influence the judges. And anyway, that's a sought after trait. That's a sought after ability from a business, especially from a PR standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And I may get this wrong, but it was the CEO of Texas Instruments came up to her after the competition, introduced himself, and he said to her, "Now listen, I'm watching you and I'm impressed, and I'd like to offer you a scholarship to go to this college, and while you're there, I want to pay you with it. I want you to be involved with our work, and I want to give you a paid internship. And then when you graduate, I have a job for you. We really are impressed with you and really like you and want you to come to work for us." And then my business partner's son, Caleb, this was 2 years later, I believe. Anyway, time's not important, but I was standing by him when this happened, and SpaceX came up to our pit, which we didn't really know who they were. Just some guy walked up to us, and he's like, "Where's your programmer?" "Caleb, I'm the programmer." And he handed him a card, and he said, "Would you call us before 8:00 tonight if you're interested?" And it was a SpaceX card. It was just had their logo on it, and it had a handwritten phone number on the back. And I was more excited than he was, I think.
Wow.
And I was pestering him. I'm like, Caleb, did you call him yet?" He said, "No, it's too loud in here. I'll call him when we leave." I was like, okay. So anyway, we get on the bus, and I'm like, Caleb, did you call him?" He goes, "No, not yet." And I'm like, "Don't mess around. You're going to miss the deadline. Don't forget. Don't mess around." And
be like, "Hey, can I call you?"
Yeah. And anyway, we stopped at a McDonald's somewhere outside of Houston on the way back home, and I was trying to corral kids, and I had forgotten about it for a minute, and I was trying to corral kids and get them their food and get them to sit down and keep them from acting like idiots in the McDonald's and embarrassing the school. So anyway, we got back on the bus, and I'm like, Caleb, did you call him? He goes, yes, I called him. And I'm like, well, what'd they say? He goes, they wanted me to go to work for them. And I told them, no, I was going to school at Arkansas Tech University.
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, can I call them? Caleb, did you? No.
Oh, see, that goes back to that programming. You know, how you said that you kind of felt like a failure in your 20s because you didn't get that college education. He had a job for probably one of the smartest men on this planet, and he turned it down because he was been programmed that he has to go through this institution.
I mean, possibly. Caleb is he's a very smart individual, and that's what he told me. He probably had other reasons too, you know, but yeah, definitely. But the thing is what I see are our kids in our isolated little community that the world doesn't know about, and they don't know about the world, seeing the world and getting these opportunities that everybody in the world would like to have, you know.
No, don't get me wrong. I hope that he stays here, and
he does. He works for us now in this building.
Yeah, and so he can focus all of that intelligence and innovation into here. That's my mission, is to get as many people as I can to grow where you're planted here.
Yep.
Because if we don't, there's not going to be anything left. If everybody grows up and moves away, then there will be nothing here, because there are no industry. Industry's not coming back. Manufacturing's not coming back.
And my whole endeavor into community development came through Mr. Fritchie. David Fritchie is a very dear friend of mine, and he helps mentor the robotics team also, and he's very involved in community development. And I met a lady from Tulsa at robotics. She was a judge. She changed my life and my outlook on life, and we could have 2-hour talk about her influence, and how awesome she is. Working with them too, you know, the realization kind of came to me that if you want something changed, you are going to have to participate in it. It's not going to happen on its own. And I just wanted a region. I don't want to say Booneville. It's not, and that's kind of part of what I'm going to get at. But I don't want to say I want my kids to live in Booneville. I want them to live close enough that I can visit them and not have to fly or not have to drive 12 hours. And to do so, we have to change some things. We can't live in the 50s. We can't live in the 60s and do the same things the same way, because things are different now.
Right.
I feel like I lost some credibility in the community development community here, just because I did a lot of things with the hospital, turning it into an innovation center. There was an Imagine This competition at the school, and a lot of it, nothing became of it. And plain and simple, I can't do everything myself. You know, I brought these things in and these opportunities in, and nobody stuck their hand up and said, you know, the Imagine This competition was a community development, an economic development initiative to have kids who have the best ideas. You know, kids, they don't have boundaries like we do. To come up with an idea, one way to make your community better. It could be a food bank. It could be a dog walking service. It could be anything. Well, all of these ideas, you would hope, and part of this is a lot of people don't even know about this too. So I don't want to push blame on anybody, and it sounds like I'm alluding to that, and I'm not. But the point of that is that, you know, here's these ideas. So, you know, the city, the chamber, all of the organized groups that are the players in community development, they get a glimpse into what the youth want, which are the next leaders of the area. So in my opinion, we should work towards things. I mean, they have unbridled ideas. So, you know, as the leaders of the community, we have to take and look at them and interpret them into a way that they fit. But nonetheless, it gets the ball rolling.
Right.
I probably should sit still a little more and not run to try to get to the finish line or get something done. But I'm happy that it all happened because I've learned so much. And now, I'm meeting new people that want to make the community better, but not just want to, they're doing things like yourself. It takes effort to come down here and record this, and it takes effort to spend your time editing all that audio and then uploading it to the web. And that's time you could be playing with your kids, time you could be on Facebook or any social media of your choice, or sitting in the recliner watching TV. But anyway, so I think you too. But I'm starting to see more and more people doing things, and we all have a small piece. It's not going to happen overnight, but the thing that I see that's missing, and it's just my opinion, but we got to get past the exclusive mindset. It can't always be about Booneville. It's okay to do things that others are going to benefit from, like magazine in Paris, and we need to be more inclusive,
right?
Because it's just like you're always better in your in numbers. There's funding and grants and monies out there that aren't just going. They won't fund something for Booneville. Now, if you have an organization that encompasses Booneville Magazine, Paris, County Line, Greater Logan County area, that the government, the gatekeepers of the monies, they want it to be used in effect as many as possible when it's set up for something that's like community development. So the more people you can impact, the more you're likely to be awarded that money.
Mm-hmm. So is there a specific program that you're referring to that?
Not a specific. I've researched so many that it's just, I've researched a lot, and most of which you're going to have a hard time just getting it for this area, and there's tons that are targeted just for specific communities, and we utilize those. The school utilizes them.
So what you're saying is the target beneficiaries, the people who would benefit from it, have to be a greater number than just 3,000 or 5,000 people. It's going to have to be, 20,000. Well, like that.
I wouldn't say they have to be, but it certainly is going to. You're going to have a greater chance of being awarded something like that. They want it to affect the best bang for the buck.
So it's just an exclusivity that has kind of been noticed with a lot of the leaders in the separate communities.
It is not isolated to
right.
Booneville.
Right.
Any community you go to anywhere in the world, not all of them, but in general, they're looking out for themselves. Mm-hmm. And I would like to do a study on this, but I propose that a lot of times, if you see communities that have just unnormally grown, or I guess first, let's step back just a second. When we say we want to develop the community, what's that goal? What's the goal? Is it to have better parks? Is it to have better roads, better government facilities? Is it to have more restaurants, more citizens?
I would say it's to increase the quality of life for everybody in that community. Creating jobs that would support them better, which in turn would increase the would lift up all those things that you just said.
Gotcha. Okay.
Was that what you would define it as?
I would say everybody's mental picture of what it means to let's make Booneville better is different. Mm-hmm. For me, we want to create jobs. We have to get industry in here. I hear people say, I want more restaurants. I do too, but to have more restaurants, we have to have more citizens, because you can't add 10 restaurants to the current population base and expect it to be supported. Right.
There's an algorithm that goes along with your population, what their disposable income is, how much they're going to eat out. Everything is a math equation. People don't understand that.
Absolutely.
And scientists specifically psychologists have figured this out. That I'm going to get off in the weeds here, but in order to have those restaurants, and in order for them to survive, the people surrounding there are going to need more or higher paying jobs.
Sure. Some people don't want more people here. So if you are going to create jobs, there's so many different little intricacy things. Like, let's say we brought some industry in here. Well, we have the hotels. That hinders a lot of things. If we were to, for instance, if a manufacturing facility was going to look at Booneville as a prospective place to put a new factory,
Mm-hmm.
do they have the population to support the workers we need? Can we get the place built? I mean, what's it take to build a factory? A year and a lot of workers. And usually those workers travel, so they are skilled in that,
Mm-hmm.
not something that we necessarily have that we can provide. Where are they going to stay? They're going to drive back and forth to Fort Smith every day. How far are we from the interstate, which is your transit lines? You know, like if they're going to be manufacturing something, they're going to have to ship something out. So what's it going to take? How much extra is it going to cost to drive a truck, an 18-wheeler to Ozark?
Right. So you have the whole logistics issue.
So that's just an example of it's not just as easy as putting a new business in Booneville or a company deciding to put a new business here.
Mm-hmm.
Internet facilities is a huge thing. Luckily, we are in good shape when it comes to the ability to transport large pipes of internet for industry. We are just in a good place as far as the phone company is concerned here. So I think that a big part, in my opinion, to making this place better is certainly addressing the mental health aspect, addressing, well, first and foremost, when you are going to take on a big project, like let's just say that 20 of us, and not including myself, 20 leaders of the city, the mayor, the director of the Chamber of Commerce, the banks, the players that can make these things come to be. What is the first thing, if you're going to have a big plan to do something, what do you have to have? A map, project planning, a strategic roadmap. You have to, and not just common sense wise, but for federal funding, there's things laid out that you must do as a community to receive federal funding. And one is you've got to have a plan, and it's got to be written down, a strategic plan. So you have to start forming strategic planning committees. And it's not about what I want the community to change. It's not about what you want. It's what the community wants for themselves, because the community is a group of people. So I don't get to make those decisions, right, what we need. Neither do you. So you have to start doing grassroots. You have to have town halls. People have to be involved in the development of their community, because it's their community.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not, it's not gonna happen, because I can't decide for them, and I can't make them write on paper. I you know what I mean? Like that's why it takes a lot of people to get this done.
I hadn't really ever thought it out in such detailed terms, but it really does take a lot. And I would guess probably most of it is planning. Most of what you're doing is going to be in the planning phase, which is really with anything, with anything that you do, there's goals, unless you don't have any goals, but we set goals, and you set short-term, long-term, and you're never going to hit the mark, but you have to adapt as you go. And that kind of goes along with what you're doing on an individual level as well with the mentorship. You're giving the tools to people.
That's right.
This is the best way that we know to move forward in life, to navigate this life. That for the best possible way, here are some tools. And anybody that is successful will tell you they got that way through mentorship, whether it be a dad, an uncle, or somebody that took them under their wing, that was successful themselves.
Absolutely. Those
tools. So, and you've heard Tony Robbins say, show me your friends and I'll tell you your paycheck, not to get into personal development world, but there's a lot of truth to that. The quickest way to life hack, I would say, would be to find a mentor.
Oh, yeah. You can't do it alone.
So what do you have going on right now, and what are some things that people can do to help?
I think organization, people who are willing to put forth some effort.
Mm-hmm.
And with that also, not have their time wasted, not call a meeting necessarily to talk about how we want to change the community, not, that we want change. Everybody knows that we want to make it a better place. So it's kind of like, now it's time for the feet to hit the street. I was thinking about this earlier. It's another way of saying what I said is you can't just go ask. It takes money to make things change, and it takes money to make things better. And the government, in most cases, is that person or that entity. And you can't just go tell the government, hey, we want to make our community better. Give us some money.
Right.
That right there is a recipe for jail.
Yeah.
Because you have no plan of how you're going to spend it and what you're going to do with it. So I certainly don't want to come across and sound like nothing's going on and this is not happening.
Right.
Because there are, join Rotary, join Kiwanis. These groups are doing things. I'm in Rotary, and we are building an amphitheater across the road and turning that parking lot into a park.
I heard about that. So how do people join Rotary? How do they join Kiwanis? Is that one of those ask one, be one type things?
I guess, yeah, but you don't have to ask one. You just come to a meeting. I'm not in Kiwanis. I think that they meet on Tuesdays, and they may want to beat me up for saying it wrong. If it's not, it's either Tuesday or Thursday at noon at the Gerald Hampton meeting place, and Rotary meets on Wednesdays at noon. That's what these organizations are for, is to get people in front of each other, get them talking, get some movement going. Part of it is it can come, the movement to make your community better. It can certainly come from anyone, but look at your, we just had a big turnover in city council members.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong. The mayor nor the city council can't do it by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Look at your elected officials. What are they doing to make things better, to make things, what are they doing? Just, and don't let somebody tell you, go look for yourself. Go talk to them, ask them. I think we have a great city council. I think Jerry's done a good job, a great job. But ask them, what's your plan? What's the roadmap for us? Where are we headed? Everybody's talking about wanting change. How are we doing that? What can I do to help? That's the big thing. Don't stand back, point fingers. Just say, what can I do to help?
Right.
You can tell 10 people you need help, and one will help you. You can tell 10 people somebody's not doing what they're supposed to, and they'll go tell 10 people, and they'll tell 10 people. Yeah. So it's much more destructive to point fingers than it is to go help. So go help. Warm bodies. Mm-hmm. Warm, passionate bodies.
Right. We've all known someone that has the ability to motivate people.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that we have that in this community, that we have people that are able to, like, I know, and I've learned a lot from several people throughout my life, but one that, and he would kill me for saying his name, but Matt Scantling has the uncanny ability to complete projects, and he gets them a lot of times under budget, way under budget, and before deadlines. And it's because he knows exactly what needs to be done, and he motivates the people that he has in the plan to get their jobs done. It's not like a micromanager. He just has the ability to motivate you because he sees he basically sees what value you have before you even see it yourself. So in a great motivator, that I think that's a key quality, is the ability to see the values and the strengths that people have, even when at first sometimes they don't.
Sure. And I mean, let's be honest. If people just, I mean, at its root, people want to be valued. Mm-hmm. They want to make a difference. And if they're not, if there was a organization of people that were volunteering their time to, I don't know, clean a ditch. I mean, pick up trash in the ditch. And if they didn't, after it was done, if people griped about it, well, they're probably not going to do it again. Mm-hmm. I mean, why would you volunteer your time to not feel appreciated and not? I mean, that's just basic human needs. Mm-hmm.
Do we have that leadership? Do we currently have people that have that ability to motivate people to get those projects completed?
Sure. Are they doing community development? I don't know. Brother Eric, who I think he moved to Neosha. He was able to motivate, able to get things moving.
Eric
Green.
Eric Green. Okay.
Yep. He was a pastor at the First Baptist Church.
So he moved away?
Mm-hmm. Very, very gifted individual, able to influence and motivate, see things the way they are. Mm-hmm. So, and that's what, in my tiny little vision in my head when I close my eyes and imagine how it would be, is, I don't see the mouthpiece yet. I don't see the I call them a ramrod. Mm-hmm. And they're usually not a ramrod, but that I don't see that ramrod. I don't know who it is. I don't know if they haven't stepped up. I don't know if they are, and I'm just ignorant and think I know things and I don't, which is probably part of it. But I don't see anybody, and I think what you're doing is a huge part, and a missing piece is communication.
Right,
getting everybody level set. Here's the playing field. This is what people think. This is what they've done. This is their experiences. So let's go from there. We've had town hall meetings before and nobody shows up. Did they know about it?
No, I think,
of course.
I think Facebook is probably the number one communication line that we have, because it's certainly not the newspaper. I mean, you can put public announcements in there and maybe some people will hear about it, but we don't even have, and I may get in trouble for saying this, but I'm going to call a spade a spade. We don't even have a citizen of Booneville that is employed by the Booneville Democrat. They don't have an office here. The front page story on the sports was a national story. It was USA Today. So, yeah, I think we need more communication.
Yeah, I worry, and I've not had great success with Facebook either, and now I often wonder sometimes, just from my experience, when I'm droning through and reading these, when I've turned into that zombie, things don't stick.
Right.
Like, I don't know if my mind is not in the right place to retain a memory, but things don't stick, Mm-hmm. So certainly gets it in front of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I say that's probably the best one right now because that's all we have.
It certainly has the most outreach and the most people.
And that's one of the reasons I built this, was that, so people can get to know the people in there. And, I could have made a national podcast and jumped in with that pond with all those, but I was like, I want to see results fast. I want to make a difference. I want to do something to make a difference. I want to give back to my community. And, I'm not going to sit here and say that, I don't want anything out of it. I certainly do. I certainly want to be involved. That's my motivation, is that I get to be involved. But in order to be involved, you have to do something, So, and I think all of us in the community have something that we could do, whether, I don't know whether it's knitting, even, we could probably use that somehow, but everybody has a gift. And I think that's, what a lot of what you're doing is you're taking the next generation and you're building the tools that are needed for the future, and you're planting seeds for the future, for the community. And I commend you for that.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. How do people join the robotics? Do they have to be a part of the coding team first, or?
No, absolutely not. I don't know that we've ever turned anyone away. We have kids on the team from County Line. We have kids on the team from Magazine. We have kids from Booneville. We are not a Booneville school team. We are heavily sponsored by the Booneville schools, but we are our own independent 501c3 organization. We want any kid that wants to be involved. And we have a website. It's Rocky-Balboabots.com. There's a link there to send us a message. I get those messages. Other mentors get them. If you go to school at Booneville, we have a teacher that is also a mentor, Miss Tatum. Anybody from Booneville could go and ask Miss Tatum, and she would get them signed up. But really, right now with the COVID, we're not able to meet like we used to. Competition has changed this year. We're not going to get to go anywhere this year. It's okay because we have all new members on the team, with except two. I forget sometimes as an adult, they don't even know how to turn a screwdriver. That really, I say, hey, go get me those channel locks. What's a channel lock?
Go get me the squeegee sharpener.
Yeah, exactly. We do have a lot of fun with the announcers at competitions. There's always one loudmouth on the speaker because people always forget parts. So you go up to the announcer and you're like, hey, we need a 775 Pro motor, Team 5437, and he'll come over the PA. Team 5437 is looking for a 775 Pro motor. Please take it to their pit if you have one. Our kids love to go, we need a left-handed screwdriver. And the dude always fails for it. It's like, Team 5437 needs to borrow a left-handed screwdriver. But so we have kind of stepped back from the robot building this year and have picked some other tasks, other builds that aren't quite so complicated and involved, just to get them comfortable with tools and the design process. It's kind of like we were talking about earlier. You can't build a robot by just doing it. You kind of have to have an idea of what you want. It doesn't have to be a drawn-out engineered plan, but you certainly need to know some goals that it wants to accomplish. Do we want it to shoot balls? Do we want it to pick up balls? Do we want it to climb? I mean, there's all kinds of different objectives in a competition. So we've been going through the planning process of a building project. Like right now, we're building a battery storage cart and a workbench. And so we went through, here, what are the things that we want to accomplish? What do we want this multi-use tool to do? So they get to draw it out and get part of the engineering process. So it's a good year. We're having fun. No pressure.
How many years have you been in the robotics program, or had the robotics program?
The robotics team, I believe this is their 8th year. This is my 5th year. I'm not good with, as you can probably tell from talking to me, I'm not good with time.
So you mentioned before that the Balboabots team has been on a national scale, mathematically highly successful.
International scale. Thank you very much.
International. Oh yeah, you went to Belgium, right?
Well, no, we just compete against teams all over the world.
Oh, okay.
The world competition isn't the world competition. There's 8,500 teams in 120 countries that compete. And we a couple years ago, we won an Engineering Inspiration Award at not nationals. You got me saying nationals now. At world competition. There are 2 of those given out in the world.
Wait a minute. What was the award that you got?
It's called the Engineering Inspiration Award, and a description of that award is a newer team that is firing on all cylinders, making a difference in their community. That's a big part of what FIRST is about, is making your community better, giving back to the people who gave you the ability to compete in robotics, because it's not cheap.
So who started the FIRST? Is it a FIRST organization? Is that what it's called?
It's called the First Organization. Yeah, his name's Dean Kamen. He's in Massachusetts. There were 16 teams that originally started it, one of which is in Mountain Home, Arkansas, the bomb squad.
Wow.
Team number 16. There's a whole list of, which we don't have them, but the judges have them, but there's a whole list of things that contribute to a Engineering Inspiration Award. And that is the prequel to a Chairman's Award. Chairman's Award's the biggest award you can win with robotics. It's you're making a difference in your community, you're making a difference in your state, your world, and same with Engineering Inspiration. So it's about the impact that you're having. And we won Engineering Inspiration at Worlds, and there's 2 of them given out each year in the world, and everybody tries to win it, and we won.
Wow. So is that like the Stanley Cup of?
It's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
It gets you noticed by a lot of people. We've been fortunate. We've always had sponsorship. Mm-hmm. A kid has never had to pay for anything other than maybe a T-shirt here and there. So completely get to compete for or participate for free. All our tools, everything we have was through sponsorship. So we've been very fortunate. And that's a huge part to the success. And Rockline. Rockline started our team. Keith Smith and was, I don't know the story exactly word for word, but Keith Smith really was encouraging school to start a robotics team. And David Fritchie, Debbie Danicus, I'm going to miss a few people, and I apologize, but they were a part of the core group. I don't even know who all the first ones were. I think Stacy McCullough, maybe. Anyway, it's not. They started the team, and they had an engineer that Rockline supplied the first couple of years. His name was Mitch, and he did a fantastic job with the kids. He was a mechanical engineer, but he had the ability to show them how to build robots, and just to dispel a myth. I've heard a lot of people say, "Well, the kids don't build the robots." Well, they're not supposed to. Mm-hmm. You can't take a kid out of high school and expect them to build an autonomous robot. It's just not in their skill set. Right. But the point is you have skilled mentors in their discipline, and that mentor, mine's electrical and electronics. So I take whatever kids that I'm working with, whichever ones gravitate to electronics and electrical. I teach them what I know about wiring, and it's not a matter of hooking red wire to red wire and black wire to black wire. There's a whole discipline to making the wiring safe and making it where it's rigid so that when the robot falls off of the tower that it's climbing, that wires don't get pinched and short out and catch on fire. There's all kinds of with wiring. Anyway.
So are these battle bots, any of them, or are they laborers? Like they can?
I wish. It's more like if you compared it to something, it'd be more like a basketball game.
Okay.
You have three people on each team, and that's how they do qualifiers. So you have randomly generated lists, 3-on-3, cooperation, and the 3 compete against each other. Every year they change how you score points and what the field looks like and the challenges. But these random generated pairings, you end up with a team will end up in the top 8 based off of how they performed. And they don't keep up with individual stats. It's more about and that's something we also have to do is have a team of scouts that set up, and we have an app that Crockett wrote that they take stats, and then we compile that data, and we have to compile our own statistics on each individual robot because it's not kept up with, it's not tracked. So if you're one of the 8 teams, you get to pick your teammates who you play in the finals with. So you want to make the best decision you can.
So it's not like your team versus the world. It's like you have to learn how to collaborate with other teams in order to be successful in this.
Absolutely. And that's the robot competition I'm speaking of. That is only one small award that is given. They have the quality engineering, the engineering quality award, which is a based around the quality of robot you built. They have the Woody Flowers Award, which is, sorry, I can't give you a good description of that, but I know that, I'm going to stop.
It's
I'm going to stop.
The best looking one or something.
Yeah, no, but look, I work on the robot. I don't do a lot of the other stuff, okay? I know the ones about the robot. And I don't even like working on the robot. I don't even feel like that's what my gift is with the kids.
Yeah.
But somebody has to do it, and it just kind of...
And so through building robots, they learn about life and skills, acquiring skills and using those skills to complete goals.
They learn best practices for fabrication and construction. We have to build a big wooden field too. I mean, they learn regular, like you're building your house construction. They learn how to run a nail gun, how to run a screw gun. But way more than that, some of the philosophies about why things are done the way they are for safety and strength, and they learn about safety. So if you kind of follow in here, they're learning the reason that there's such heavy sponsorship for this is because we are developing the next workforce of laborers. And I don't necessarily mean a laborer, but like all these robots that are going in these factories, somebody's going to have to work on them. Mm-hmm. They don't run forever. And engineers in plants, they are so far ahead of a kid that's starting college beside them. It's not even funny. I mean, they built robots already,
Mm-hmm. I know you've already said the website for the Rocky Balboabots, but on your community development or your business support site, do you have a plug for that a website that they can go to?
It's libertyinformatics.com.
Okay. So if I had let's say I had and is this for retail businesses or is it for all businesses that just anything to do with technology to innovate? Who's your ideal customer for Liberty Informatics?
We do quite a few things right now. Being a new business, we have not found our solid lane yet.
Right.
We do custom software solutions for businesses. Crockett has a ton of experience working all across the U.S. with startup companies, from banking to logistics, and I have a lot of experience with communication companies and logistics. And we have a unique pairing of my hardware background and Crockett's software background to offer a uncommon hardware-software combination. Software guys usually want to do software. Hardware guys usually want to do hardware, and they don't want to cross those boundaries. Mm-hmm. Usually, if a company needed software support, they would have to go find software support, and then they'd have to find hardware support. So if you needed a robot to go into a stock trailer and clean it out autonomously, that you didn't want to get in there and spray the manure out, and you wanted it to drive in there, spray it out, clean it out, and come out, and you not ever touch it, we can do that. That's the hardware-software combination I'm talking about. So we are currently, like I said earlier, though, we're currently working on e-commerce apps. So we're really heavily invested in that, and it's consuming a lot of our time right now. We're almost finished with the first rollout. So certainly anybody who would be looking for a mobile application or a POS system, cash register system to sell their products, that's what we're working on right now.
There are, depending on what industry you're in, the POS systems can be very, very, very pricey.
Yeah, that's true. And there's a lot of development costs that goes in those. I mean, you figure just time alone involved is the biggest part of it.
Is it like a SaaS company, or is it you pay one time and then from there on you just it's just processing fees?
We're new enough that it's negotiable either way, but we prefer SaaS.
Okay.
Subscription. I just see talking to small mom and pop restaurants over and over is they're just constantly getting gouged and gouged, and we need $10,000 for this, we need $5,000 for this, and I don't want to do that to them. If we can work out an agreement to where, we can't lose money. We can't operate losing money. But if we can work an agreement where it's amicable for both of us, and we have a small fee per transaction or a monthly fee to help them not have to swallow this big one-time fee. We certainly would prefer that. Even as a small business ourselves, all of the startups and the account creations, and you got to have all this money for this and that. It's tough,
And support for your whatever software you need for your POS is crucial too. So I'm assuming that you guys would be
sure
when they have support issues.
And if I can just say it like it is, the way it really is like you will benefit so much from newer companies. Because we're hungry. We're going to try hard to make you happy and make sure that everything in your life is perfect as far as we're concerned. And you don't get that from the big guys. So it's a trade-off. You as it's being developed, there may be things that you don't like that need to be reprogrammed, need changed, and that certainly happens. And it doesn't happen as quick as you might want it to. But then again, you have stellar support.
And the money that you're spending is going back into your community. It's
Absolutely.
It's not going to some
Absolutely
company offshore or some state on the East or West Coast.
Not going into a bonus for a high executive. I assure you, we have no high-paid executives here. Yeah, I love the new buy local. I'll share with you. Crockett was letting me. I need to find it. There's a book the other day. He showed it to me, and it was about a group of kids who wanted to make their community better. They had looked at the 5 things to help generate revenue, and one thing that they had identified is that people were not spending their money locally. Things they could get locally, they were buying online. So they started a campaign to increase revenue locally by 20%. Just by raising awareness. And they stood out on a street corner and they held up signs and they used social media to promote their initiative. And to their surprise, they swung at 35%. And that started a little snowball that completely changed that community. I'll ask, I don't know the name of it right now, but I'll ask Crockett and make sure that I get it to you so you can put it on here. It's a pretty inspiring story about how just a group of kids at the right time at the right moment started the whole thing that in the same position we're in, very similar to us. It was about that size community, and everybody was wanting change and everybody was trying, but a little disorganized, and that was the one thing that got the ball rolling. So,
and that's one thing that I think we all could do is if you have a local business that offers something that you use.
Absolutely.
You're going to most likely pay a couple dollars more, but you're supporting your community.
That's right.
And people buy from who they like. If I need an accountant, you can definitely look one up in the phone. Well, they don't have phone books anymore. Google one, or people don't do that. They say, I know what's her face, or I know what's his name.
Mm-hmm.
He goes to church with me.
Mm-hmm.
And you do that, and that because that's how we operate. And I think we forget sometimes to do that with other things that we use in our home. Like if you need soap, we have a place for that. We have a place for that, and that money goes back into the community. It's paying somebody that lives here.
Absolutely.
So why
coffee, soap?
Yeah,
I mean, it goes on and on. To the whole, it's more expensive. Yeah, it might be a little bit more expensive, and we all have to watch our finances. But I know I do, and I know everybody else does too. We waste so much money recklessly without a care, like the side-by-side that I have sitting at my house that we had to have, because we were going to go explore the mountains. I didn't need that. And it neither here nor there, I wanted it,
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is I wasn't worried about how much it cost when I bought it, So,
Mm-hmm.
When you're talking about a $5 bar of soap that directly supports a company that is 100% focused on improving the quality of life here, that's a no-brainer.
Right.
I mean, that...
And you know the person that, or hopefully you can get to know the person who made it. And not only that, you get a good feeling knowing that you're doing that.
Right.
And I think it's something that we all took for granted before all of this, is you just by buying stuff, you're helping.
Yep.
And that's not to say that everything's going to be more expensive, because the razors definitely are not.
No, absolutely not.
I had Rod and Mandy on the show, and I didn't think about it, but replacement razors for his razors are like $25, where like the ones at Walmart are $6.
Right.
So it's not always, you're not always going to have to pay more, but even if you do, if you're not doing that, you're doing a disservice to your community and yourself in the long run.
Absolutely. And it may be a little easier to hit the checkout button for Amazon, but at the same time, like we've been talking about, what can you do to help your community? Mm-hmm. That's one way. And it's not much of an inconvenience, Yeah, it's not as easy as sitting in your recliner and ordering it online, but it's certainly well worth it.
And I think people have forgotten, or maybe they don't know, that opportunities come as a result of relationships. When you're in the stores and you're seeing other people, it's almost like our society is pushing us to be in our homes constantly, and everything we need is on our phone or on a computer, and we never really interact. But
absolutely,
we have to get back to where we are interacting with each other.
Perfect example. A new company starting up, and you have Reed's Barbecue, who wants a mobile app, and they come to a new company who says they can do it, and invest in them to do it. Like that's a huge leap. But what you said, Steve and I used to work at the police department together. Mm-hmm. That relationship is why we were able to get that deal. And I could go on about that forever and ever. And the old saying of it's not what you know, it's who you know. That can be taken in different ways and interpreted different ways. But at the end, if you can provide a service, or you have a reputation of being able to deliver, or it's who you know, not what you know, because those relationships is what makes those opportunities possible.